So the three main claw ID checks: fingerprint of lead thumb, trail palm to lead thumb knuckle, trail thumb against handle.
I love that.
This is like the foundational support group, okay, for the golf swing. So
think about when people have like their cell phone and they have to use like their fingerprint to get into it. It's almost like that's what you need to actually like activate your golf club before you can swing it.
Must misunderstand, but it's not that hard to understand.
That's the biggest misconception in golf right there, though, is that everybody thinks that this is bad at impact, and if they is close. Understand that the golf swing is 90% hands and arms. It used to be like back in the 20s and 30s with Harry Vardon and Henry Cotton and all these guys. They were saying that it was 90% hands and arms. Where did that get lost? Like, why? Why did we lose that? We are live. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Cause and Effect podcast, where we introduce the cause and effect relationships that exist in golf in relation to the hand-to-handle-to-face relationships. Episode 39. We got a really exciting episode coming up. Golf's in a great space right now. I mean, we got a ton of momentum with golf right now. Our channel's doing good on YouTube. We're having a blast creating content. And we're about to have a really kind of big end of the summer. I mean, we got a ton of content planned. Claw IQ's launching. Claw Ball's launching. Super excited. We're going to shoot some good content this week as well. So it's going to be a really fun week. But we're going to kick it off right with this episode. And really grab your compact club if you have it. If you don't, we've got a few left from our third drop. Appreciate all the support we've been continuing to get on these. It's absolutely unreal. So, I think we should just get right into it and talk about Rory. You've heard us talk about Rory a lot on this channel, but his grip is just, it's perfect. He's pinch perfect, as we say, right? So can we just like maybe give the viewers a little bit of an understanding of why it's so good?
Sure.
And what does that like help him do in his swing?
So basically, when you think about the fingerprint of the lead thumb, we've talked about this before. To get the fingerprint of the lead thumb connected to the club properly, you have to have this proper notch, which is basically like this pinch pressure between the inner part of the lead thumb and the index finger. So when he positions this on the grip, he basically puts it at a 2 o'clock position. Imagine that 12 o'clock is straight up and down. He gets it turned over to 2 o'clock like that. So when you look at his lead thumb, you see the fingerprint of it is perfectly connected at that point. Has the perfect notch position. Again, he's more of, this is like the neutral. Go strong, it's like 230. We're going to get into that later. But then from there, he perfectly connects his trail palm to his lead thumb knuckle. And then he also has perfect connection and positioning of his trail thumb down the club like this. So
and he's more on top with his trail palm than most guys like DJ and guys like that. They're a little more like underneath, but he's very on top.
More on top,
But he has a ton of like, what's he have in his trail wrist? Like radial,
so he has
extension.
So he has extension, which is the pressing against the side of the lead thumb, and he has radial, which is pushing down against the lead thumb. And commonly what we see with like people that have like a stronger grip is it's more extension and they lose that radial, so the trail hand kind of starts to slide underneath the grip like this. And then we'll talk about the consequences when that happens
in the
coming in. But when you look at Rory's grip, it is perfect. And then in swing, what this allows him to do, because he's concentrated the pressures perfectly, he then can keep his elbows nice and locked, control his lever, lag, and release. He's also using the Pro Sender, which is helping him get the perfect extension in the trail wrist when he goes back, which is helping him, in a sense, get a little bit less across the line, a little bit more on plane, and then helps him keep that cup. I mean, he's always had the cup good, like maintaining it, but it's the position it's coming down from in the transition.
Because his elbow's in a better spot now, because he's getting a better set here. The elbow's pinned in front of him, so the shaft doesn't get across the line.
And he gets I think he gets a little shallower because of that too. At impact, opposed to being a little bit steeper. And Rory's always had such great locked elbows when he comes through, but a lot of it comes down to being pinch perfect and getting the lead thumb perfectly on the club, getting the trail palm perfectly connected to the lead thumb knuckle, and then getting the trail thumb in perfect position as well. So everyone can take something away from that. Be pinch perfect. Elbows and everything are going to be more connected, and you're going to hit the ball a lot further, and your body's not going to have to do as much.
I've been telling my students when they're gripping the club is you basically just want to imagine that everything's like sewed together. Like sew your like seams of your fingers together and then sew the thumb and forefinger together. Just imagine like if I took water out of my water bottle and dropped it right now, it wouldn't like seep through any cracks here. It's just perfectly sealed in there. And that just makes it so much easier when we take the club right out here in front of us to just concentrate our pressures.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
And then it's easier to get the lead thumb on the side because as soon as you start separating here, now it's like lead thumb's over here too much. And again, we're going to talk about that a little bit in a little bit. But yeah, the big thing is just getting that. It's almost like his like identity of his like lead thumb. Like if he committed a crime, we'd be able to figure out like his thumbprint and like DNA basically like in his grip, right?
Yeah.
He's very firm with the pressure there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you, we'll pull up like a little graphic and kind of show that. I mean, he does like this move right before he takes it back, where he takes the trail palm off and then covers it again. And you see when he takes it off how good that thumbprint is.
If you look at our thumbs right now, lead thumb like this, and you look at Rory's in this picture we're going to show you, and then you look at his trail hand connection and where this is at right here, it's exactly the same.
This has been helping me so much in my game, where we talked about this in the last episode, but I'm feeling like my trail palm is pushing for the first time in quite a while. Like I have a lot of radial in my wrist. Like my fingers are like this. So I feel like I can just take this and just push like straight down on that lead thumb. And it just, because I've always had like good with this, but if you get just the side and not the this, then it's just hard to get that trail palm covering that lead thumb, right? Like we always say, always want to cover up that lead thumb. We tell our students that all the time. And then from there, now you can just push with the palm, and it's a really good segue into kind of what we are talking like to our students about when they first kind of go through the process of doing lessons with us. We're always kind of laying out the idea of the main objective in the golf swing, right? And that's really what, if somebody was asked like, okay, what is the main objective if I'm just getting into golf, or maybe I'm a current golfer and I'm trying to figure out like, what is my job as a golfer? Like, what am I trying to accomplish? What do you tell your students?
So we'll say relative to your like toe and body alignment, striking either the lower or upper half of the inner quadrant of the golf ball. Maybe if you want to hit like the ball a little bit higher, you're going to hit a little bit lower quadrant. And then if you want to hit it a little bit lower, it's going to be more of that top quadrant. So when it comes down to like the punch shot, you're technically going to be actually hitting more of the top inner quadrant. Where if you want to get more height, you're going to be hitting more of the lower inner quadrant.
Got it. But always inner quadrant.
Always inner quadrant.
Because we're on
relative
sideways
to your
sport.
stance.
Yeah, got it.
Even if you align open and you want to hit a fade, right?
Still
Relative to your
thinking
stance,
inner
you still have to
quadrant.
feel like you're striking the inner quadrant, even though you actually will be, in a sense, hitting somewhat of the outer quadrant. But it should never be a conscious idea of trying to hit the outer half of the golf ball. It's always inner half.
Got it. And really getting them to understand what, when it comes to getting the proper kind of hitting the inner quadrant, are you talking more like handle, grip? Like what do you always start with grip, obviously. And then what from there, is it all like how the club head's working relative to the handle? Like how do you describe it?
So basically the main content for today is understanding the importance of the fingerprint of the lead thumb. And we want to make sure that, so to get the fingerprint of the lead thumb, you have to create the proper notch, which is like this pinch pressure with the inside part of the lead thumb to the index finger.
Like sew that together.
Yep, sew that together. And then once we place it on the club, we're going to go strong grip. So we're going to place that fingerprint at 230 on the grip, opposed to 12 being vertical, okay? And once we get that, the idea is that from here, from a lead hand standpoint only, we want to lever the lead thumb back just under trail shoulder to the top. That's going to give you the proper plane. Then from there, we're going to keep the thumb, which is of course relative to the club head, kind of levered back as we push back with the palm to pre-impact, and then from pre-impact to post-impact. But we're going to think about pushing and driving the palm through the inner quadrant of the golf ball, and then the thumb will release around the palm after it strikes the inner quadrant of the golf ball, and that's to post-impact. But really from pre-impact to impact or the inner quadrant, it's just driving that lead palm, keeping that lead thumb bent back. Because in a sense, the lead thumb kind of fuels the whole show of your golf swing. It is like the foundational support.
It's what the trail palm is pivoting around, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But when we think about like what's important on a scale from like, there's three things we're going to talk about today. And number one is the lead thumb. Because if this is not working properly, then the trail hand is going to have some problems. So if we get
It needs a teammate.
it has to, right. So again, this is like the foundational support group, okay, for the golf swing. So once we get that fingerprint of that lead thumb properly placed on the club. Then when we think about the trail hand, so if we start off, we get our proper pinch and our notch here with the trail hand. We're going to bend the fingers back, max extension like this, and we're going to keep the fingers bent back as we place the trail palm against the lead thumb knuckle, and then we're going to gradually kind of press forward, like with the knuckle pads in a sense of the trail hand. Again, trying to feel like your fingertips are still kind of bent back, and then just curl the claws, place that trail hand thumbprint in a sense down the club, and then we are in good shape. So now we have lead thumb, we'll say lead fingerprint, number 1. Number 2 is trail palm connection to lead thumb knuckle. And then number 3 is basically the trail thumb on the handle. So
what are the most common mistakes we see with people with these 3 things that you see from, like, as a coach, them messing up? Like, what are you seeing? Let's start with number 1 with lead thumb, pinch, connection to handle.
Yeah, they don't
What's
have the pinch.
No pinch.
No pinch.
Yep.
Improper positioning on the club, whether they even do have the pinch sometimes, it's still an improper positioning for what they should be doing.
The thumb extended down the grip.
But this is the biggest thing right here is
huge,
no
right?
pinch is going to lead to all these problems. And then it's also improper placement of the fingerprint of the thumb against the club. So sometimes we'll see the thumb on top too much like this, so that the actual pole placement of the thumb is not on the club. It's like only the the right half of it in a sense, or then the lead side of it is underneath too much like this. And what happens then is that in swing, the thumb will start to move and shift around. And then the problem is that the trail hand is going to be moving in the same way. And when we get this, we get rubbing actions. We have loss of control, which, we get blisters. We also lose the proper connection of the hand to hand to face relationship, which results to contact problems, curvature problems, and body problems.
It'll be cool. I was just thinking about this. It's like, think about when people have like their cell phone and they have to use like their fingerprint to get into it. It's almost like that's what you need to actually like activate your golf club before you can swing it. It's like you can't barely put your thumbprint on there. It's like you need your whole entire thumbprint on there. So nobody can swing your golf club, but they got to have your thumbprint. But it's just really that conscious awareness of that is where the pressure needs to be.
So the 3 main claw ID checks: fingerprint of lead thumb, trail palm to lead thumb knuckle, trail thumb against handle.
I love that. Claw ID. That's your
3
claw
IDs.
ID. Love it.
Yes.
So number 2, what people are messing up is trail palm connection to lead thumb knuckle so on top. Where the fingers are like ahead of the palm too much,
causing there to be too much steepness. You get
look at that
and
arm.
that's hard when you go to push down. Then you're slamming the face shut. Or on occasion we see the person that gets underneath too much like that. That can also be a problem. But either way you look at it, we just want to make sure we get that like unification of the lead hand and the trail hand perfect. And if we get that there, it's really going to problem solve a lot of issues that most golfers are struggling with.
And then number 3 thing when it comes to as coaches, what we see people messing up with the pinch is the loss of the pinch.
We'll say the thumb's not even on the club technically. Like we see that commonly.
And what's the effect of that?
In the swing, then the club can move all over inside. There's no seam, right? So there's, the club can do whatever it really wants.
Lobster claw.
And then what happens is when this happens, that then you have to feel like you have to squeeze the club tighter because the club is going to fall out of your hands, right? Some people, when they do get pinch perfect, they do feel like, man, the club might fall out of my hands, but it's never going to because it's in your pinches and claws perfect. But that's where we see a lot of grip pressure problems too, is improper pinches. Then you feel like you have to squeeze the club, and then there's a lack of speed and control with the handle as well.
And there's no feel in that either.
No.
Like you gotta, that's something I've really been noticing is that because I'm getting so much more conscious of how I'm connecting trail palm to lead thumb knuckle, I'm so in the tips of my fingers that I just have such better feel. Like it's a little more relaxing. I feel like I can be more
your grip
of like
pressure can be lighter.
I can be like an artist. And this is like my paintbrush, You
have to be, if you get it in your pinches perfect and your grip pressure on a scale is approximately like a 1 to 2 on a scale from 1 to 10, then it's possible to properly lever the club back, lag it, and release it. If you're too tense, you're too tight, it's very hard to do this. It's very robotic. Even if you get your claws perfect. So that is that's a huge thing.
Tight with the palms, light with the fingers.
And last one would be with the trail thumb is seeing it extended down the club like this too much.
So common.
And so what happens then is that you tend to just like stab down, like you get to the top, and it's hard to like bend the fingers back because the thumb is down the club more, so there's less leverage possibility. But then from the top, you just tend to just like unhinge or cast the club from the top, resulting in closing the face too much and not pushing against the side of the handle with the palm, because the trail thumb thumb basically takes over.
Yeah,
He should technically just be along for the ride.
Yeah.
And support like the idea for the notch. So he's just again like the holster for the furthest point towards like the club head in the swing. And once you get it in there, then he can just hang on and then let the palms do the work.
So why do we, when we hear like coaches and conventional golf instruction wisdom, people say the trail hand's just along for the ride? Like, that's not true.
It's like
right?
the worst, honest, like advice.
I know.
I mean, the lead hand, yes, it's very important.
It is.
And it has to do what it has to do. And that's number one, right?
Yes.
But number two, with trail palm and then trail thumb, that is, I mean, from a standpoint of in swing of like what's really fueling the show, I would say it's 90% trail hand and 10% lead hand driven.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So the trail hand's not just chilling.
Correct.
But I mean, yeah, people are like, oh yeah, it's just, you just pull with the lead hand and the trail hand's just along for the ride. It's like, okay, well then how is the club like getting down to the ground?
If the lead hand pivot point is correct, so we have the thumb back, like levered back like this, and then we have it lagged, and then we let it properly release around like this, then we're pretty much good to go. And then the trail hand and arm are going to run the show because, 90% of it, because basically once we set the club back, the trail arm's going to bend. The trail arm is going to stay bent at pre-impact, and then the trail arm is going to go from bent straight from pre-impact to post-impact. So the trail arm does a lot more than lead arm. Lead arm is just supposed to stay straight. Right, the whole way. So it's less of a complicated roll in a sense, and that's why. And the trail hand is kind of like the caboose of the engine here, right? As far as our train.
Right.
So it's like if it is not pushing properly, and let's say the lead hand's going, but we see this connection because we see this all the time, then all of a sudden it's like this is going to happen.
Yeah, it's like the caboose like comes disconnected from like its like cart in front of it. Basically, it's like whoa, the caboose is like on a different track now. It's like now, I mean, the whole train's just gonna crash.
Right. From like, I mean, you look at like Jordan Spieth, and you see his chicken wing like this, but his trail palm stays connected and pushes through it to basically keep the handle and the club face moving through impact properly. But if his trail hand wasn't running the show, I mean, and it was like breaking down
for the ride.
I mean.
If Jordan Spieth's trail palm was along for the ride, you would not even know who Jordan Spieth is.
He'd never be a tour player.
He would just be an average golfer.
Right.
But he does such a good job with his trail hand overriding his lack of lead thumb connection and
control
pushing
of everything
and against the handle.
So one thing too we wanted to talk about today is that so we just talked about the placement and like how we're using like our thumbs in our swing. So one thing you guys can try because realistically, like once you get your grip pressure right and everything, just think about like the direction that your thumbs are going in your swing. So when you take the club back, just think thumbs just under trail shoulder to the top, and then from there it's basically thumbs to post impact. Down the line. Okay. And so
you're keeping, as you're going back, you're thinking without the club, it's just going boom.
Yep.
Trail shoulder, keeping them back, driving with them. They're never really consciously going this way.
No,
right?
The idea is like if you, from like a downline standpoint, like if we can get them to release like down the target line or a little bit to right field for a right-handed golfer or left field for a left-handed golfer, approximately, let's say 10 to 15 degrees, then that ensures that actually the palms will actually be pushing through, but it's just understanding like the end zone, like the backswing end zone and the follow through end zone of like where the thumbs need to be. And because if you're thinking, I mean, we've talked about pads and
fingers,
all this stuff, and it complicates
palms,
it because there's more things going on. But if you just think about that, where the thumbs go, and from there, you'll be surprised actually, I think, of how much that helps you with controlling the hand to handle face relationship.
Yeah.
And
because once you get this pinch here, I mean, then it's like, okay, boom, connect that to like the left side of your brain, get this pinch, connect that to the right side of your brain. Now just in your mind, just like close your eyes and just feel like boom, boom, boom. And then now just feel that same feeling, eyes closed, and just see what's going on. Now, like open your eyes and go, oh, wow, like look where the club's at. Go to the top. Oh, wow. And then you could just see how these are kind of running the show in a sense, right?
Sure. And one kind of idea is that we've been also talking, of course, about we have to strike the inner quadrant of the ball, but we want to thump the trailing edge of the club face, not the leading edge, right? So when we think about the end zone to the finish, so we've got the thumbs back. When we think about the release here, in a sense, like the thumbs are not like, again, rolling over like this, okay? Then the face is too short, we're like slamming down on the leading edge. So we want to make sure that when we like think about where the thumbs are going and how they're going to be, the thumbs, in a sense, are still kind of maintaining their position from address. They're never actually, so if we think, here's address, when we come into like impact, here we are. And then once we actually get to the end zone, you're not changing the positioning of like the grip. Like here's my post impact. I take it right back to setup. it's still the same because the face cannot ever, in a sense, close, right? It has to come in a sense, open, and then it's going to square. Whether of how much loft it has when it's square is depending on the shot you're trying to hit. But the idea is that you're trying to maintain that grip formation all the way to the finish.
What about driver? Like when we talk about thumping, like you hear us talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
And I've been having great success with my lessons with this because I never really like fully trusted this before. But I'm doing it in my own game and I'm teaching it and it's really working a lot. But you're thumping like the bottom of the driver too,
Yeah,
right?
the trailing edge.
Yeah, so you're still doing the same thing with driver,
but
you're thumping like
you're
2 inches behind, like in front of it, right?
Well, yeah,
or behind it. Yeah,
2 inches behind it because the idea with that is because you have the most flexible shaft in your bag. You're swinging it with the most speed, so the shaft flexes a lot. So like when you go back, the shaft is going to flex, and then when you're coming down, it's going to stay flexed, and then at pre-impact, it's going to start to unflex. And so if you try to bottom out 2 inches behind the ball, it allows the club face to stabilize. And then that way the club head can kick up at the golf ball because everyone has heard that you want to hit the driver on like an ascending blow. You don't want to be hitting it on a descending blow. And if you're trying to just hit down like at the ball, it's going to be too descending. Then the ball's going to go too high and have too much backspin. If you want to maximize your distance, you want to try to thump behind it. It'll help you stabilize the face, but give you the proper launch angle and backspin. And what'll happen is like, for say you're let's say you're on the range or you're on the course and you like actually thump the ground on the trailing edge, the club will never dig into the ground. You just like scrape barely.
Yes.
And then when you actually go up to hit the golf ball, you'll actually never hit the ground.
Correct.
Because the shaft, when it really does flex and you're taking that full swing speed in a sense, the club like actually shortens by approximately like 1 to 2 inches.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on how fast you're swinging and
assuming
what
you're
flex
not
you
moving
have.
your body.
Well, if we got the presets, the body proper,
body,
and we keep the body out of it. But
disclaimer.
Correct.
People will be like, I took a divot and
right. Yes.
broke my driver.
Realistically, one thing you can do at home, if you have like a little mat or even if you have a spot of grass that you can do this on, just start off taking like little quarter to quarter swings with the driver and just start thumping the trailing edge kind of slow speed. And once you get that skim idea, then just kind of build your back swing up. And then you'll notice that by the time you get to your full swing, it's still the exact same thing. You're not going to be digging craters, but you want to start off small and get the feeling for it.
Skimming, not digging.
Right. And again,
like
if it's
that.
digging, you're hitting down on the leading edge too much.
Got
right.
it.
And what that probably means is that you're not getting the thumbs back properly and then holding them back properly when you push through. That's it. So it's like the thumbs might be not levering back all the way. So then you push down and you're like slam on the leading edge.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, nice. And this applies for with irons too. I mean, if we're taking those practice swings, again, not trying to dig too much when we're making practice swings, just trying to graze the grass, give it a haircut, right?
Truthfully, in a sense, I mean, every shot in golf demands same thing. You look at short game, you got chipping, pitching, lobbing, everything's the same. Bunkers, the same. I mean, it goes for every club in the bag except for putter.
Yeah, golf's a sideways sport.
Yes.
Our thumbs are starting on the side, staying on the side, pushing, delivering the trailing edge.
Yep.
Ahead of the leading edge, and then face will square up. The leading edge will get to the ground, but it's subconscious.
Yes, because
you're pushing.
The pressure is being applied like it's coming in on the leading edge in a sense, and then as soon as you strike the turf, it's going to turn and square. But you have to override that. And that's why majority of golfers don't know how to take a proper divot. If they do take a divot, it's usually too deep or not in the right direction. And then on a side note too, it's just like understanding the idea that if you're slicing the golf ball or your ball is going to the right, that people are naturally trying to close the face more. And it's just the opposite of what you think. If you get your grip right and you get your setup right with our pre-close or like our presets, we'll say, then from there, if we control the club on plane, just under trail shoulder to the top, and then from there, hold the leg properly, get the proper release, to post impact, it's like problem solved. Because if we strike the inner quadrant of the golf ball properly with the gear effect of this to this, then the ball is going to go straight or have a little draw, depending on your toe alignment.
So really the quickest way to fix like a steep downswing would be just get your thumbs basically on the side of the club, on the side of the handle with a stronger grip. Get the thumbs like this way basically.
Levered back.
And then keep them back as long as possible and then push at the inner quadrant and stick to finish. Right? But most people that are steep, they're so like this way with the thumbs, where their thumbs are like going that direction.
Yeah, they're going too vertical. They're not staying back enough.
Okay,
like
got
horizontal enough.
Got it. So you're always trying to just feel like they're going this way, staying this way.
Yep.
Driving through.
That's
got it. As soon as they get vertical, then you're in trouble. Yeah, then so basically like you look at these guys like Gankas and whatnot, they're trying to get your thumbs to stay back here, but they're doing it with like this and this, opposed to just get the grip right, get the set right, and then now you're kind of like 90% of the way there. Right?
And when you do like the Gankas thing, you have to rely more on your body rotational speed and trying to time that up, which is very difficult. Like trying to use a lot of body and trying to synchronize your hand and arm speed is very, very, again, difficult.
Do you think he's talking about thumping the trailing edge at all with his students?
I have no idea.
Probably not.
Well, actually, the one thing I would say from him, from what I've seen with his content, is that from the top, he really talks about like the under move. Like that's his one move that he talks about, which is positioning you to thump the trailing edge. I don't know what he's talking about as far as when it actually comes to impact to the ground, if he's actually talking that terminology.
Yeah.
But this is what he's teaching to get that to happen.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, because if you just went to here, had this super shot position, and then didn't feel that under feeling with as shut as the face is, there's not enough dynamic loft there, right? You're just going to dig the leading edge too low. And that's typically what we see when we see people like trying to do this bow move, is that they just don't have enough loft on their shots.
Right. Well,
because they don't have the under move.
Enough. Because again, it's like, yeah, your body's got to do a lot of things. It has to turn and tilt properly. And then it's just harder for everybody. So go with the strong grip or neutral at most. But it's going to make your life easier.
Yes.
Get these thumbs in proper positioning. Think about where the thumbs are going in the swing, just under trail shoulder to the top. And then if you go past impact, like technically like with the rehinge, it would just be just under lead shoulder to the finish. But realistically, at post impact, just think about thumbs are back, thumbs are going to release forward, but maintain that grip formation that you have at address. Don't change it, meaning again, there's no supination or like bowing of the wrist at impact.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like keep the grip, it starts here, it sets back, you keep it to the finish. That position right there will give you the shots that you want.
You want it to stay cupped, right? If it's starting
you have
cupped,
to maintain the cup that you have at address all the way to your finish.
Everybody always says that's bad. But it's not like you're going this way with it. You're going this way with it, right?
Even the tour players that have the weak grip and the bowed left wrist, if you look at their very finish, their left wrist is actually still cupped.
Right. They're just like this at impact and then
it flicks back. Yeah,
got it.
But it has to happen. Though.
Yeah, because we're telling people like basically start this way with your thumb, start this way with your wrist, lever it back, and then return back to that same position.
Exactly,
which is cupped, and that's okay.
Yes.
That it's cupped.
Yes.
Because everybody tells them online, oh no, like you don't want to be cupped. It's like you have to be to keep thump the trailing edge and do everything, right?
The whole misunderstanding with that is that they're thinking that you're just flicking the wrist like this and scooping, and that's why they're thinking that's bad. But that's not what we're saying. The idea is to get the parameter right. Once you set the fingers back of the palm, you drive the butt into the club to the inside part of your left leg. This parameter right here is the key because now the handle is in front of the golf ball. Okay, if the golf ball is let's say straight out in front of me. Now from here, as the club unhinges like this, the left wrist is flattening in a sense, but it is still cupped. But the difference is we're not getting down to where the butt end of the club's getting to the outside of the trail leg and then starting to unhinge. That would lead to a scoop and a cupped wrist like this where the club head is passing the handle. We get the handle in proper position ahead of the club head, then it releases around it. And that's the biggest misunderstanding, but it's not that hard to understand.
That's the biggest misconception in golf right there, though, is that everybody thinks that this is bad at impact. And if the handle's forward of the club head, the proper amount, it's not bad.
It's not bad.
Love it. Good. Yeah, because everybody's like, they say that in our content all the time. Like, why do you say a cupped wrist is better than a bowed wrist? It's like, well, I mean, we've just described it really well today with being able to thump the trailing edge, get the proper loft. It also, the more kind of cup you have in the wrist, the easier it is to really get this like spring effect too, right?
Yeah.
That's what we love with this lead thumb on here is that once you lever it back, there's so much like torque right here on my thumb. If I just go, I mean, it's unbelievable how much energy I can just create with that. It's like, wouldn't you want that running your swing, not all this crazy like body turn and everything? It's just such a nightmare.
The strong grip maximizes hand and arm speed. So the bowed wrist has the least amount of hand-arm speed. So then you have to rely on your body speed. And most people, like looking at how fast they can turn, they're not coordinated enough to actually maximize speed. If you did a test, but I would say any golfer in the world actually, and you gave them a strong grip and you gave them a weak grip and seeing how far they could hit the ball with the proper technique, I guarantee every single time the strong grip wins, which is why you really never see a long drive person with anything other than a super strong grip.
Right.
You don't see anyone, I mean, other than DeChambeau, which has also been having wrist problems.
Correct.
But it's like you don't see anybody doing that.
No.
I mean, no, you can look and for the last few years, or I mean, really of all time, and you will not see anybody with a weak left hand. Everyone is strong. Look at Kyle Berkshire. Perfect example.
He's literally perfection when it comes to the grip. And Martin Borgmeyer.
Same thing.
He's the same way.
Yeah.
He's got a great grip. Yeah. I mean, Joe Miller's probably the only one I can think of that's a little more like neutral. But again, there's so many variables that you have to time. And those guys, they're just trying to hit it far. And everybody else, you're trying to hit it far with control.
With control.
Yes.
That's it. Because speed without control is useless.
Exactly.
But it's like this gives you maximizing of like both categories. And that's what everybody wants. But it also, in my opinion, when it comes down to short game, finesse shots, such, that the cupped left wrist and keeping that throughout the swing is much easier to understand with thumping trailing edge, supporting the bounce of the golf club, getting the height and the spin you want, way easier than doing the bowed wrist move and then trying to figure out how to get the face open enough. Because most people I see that have the bowed wrist move, they have problems with contact, hitting it heavy, having no backspin. The ball just runs out too much. So get the strong grip, do the presets that we talk about, and then from there, we're set up to basically thump the trailing edge of the club face through the inner quadrant of that golf ball.
Yeah, because, I mean, try taking, like we're saying, with those practice swings and thumping the trailing edge with the driver, a little quarter, and then now bow your wrist and try to, like,
take it back this
out.
way and de-loft it, and then try to loft it, opposed to just, it's in the same loft position it needs to be in the backswing. Now just keep it and push and maintain the grip formation. And it's so easy.
Yeah, it's too easy.
It's way easier.
Yeah,
than
I mean,
else,
it's unbelievable. So, all right, cool. I mean, good. Really awesome. I mean, focus on those grips. Watch those pinches. See how they're putting their thumbs on the grip. See where their thumbs are going in the backswing when they're showing the slow motion. Don't worry so much about, oh, look at their body. Look at this. No, look at their pinches. They're pinch perfect. They're moving those pinches the proper way to get the proper handle and club dynamics. That's why their ball does what it does, and that's why your ball is going to do what it's going to do. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. All the links are in the bottom, and we'll see you next week.